fix your brows. Starting with one of the three biggest mistakes that people make in shaping their brows is what I call the sperm brow, okay? This one is done correctly. This one suggests that you should look at the eye, not at anything else. It's not distracting, and it's pointing to its counterpart, which is your eye, and doing what it's supposed to do. This one, on the other hand, is screaming in your face. It's enhancing the hood of the eye and creating just some weird dynamics that happen on the face when your brow has too much of a head and then a little skinny tail. That's where the sperm idea comes from. It's too big here, the tail is too small. Sometimes they're rounded right here, and then sometimes they're very straight, and sometimes they angle out this way, and that's just the natural way that your brow grows. And if Eve hadn't sinned, I'm pretty sure we would all have perfect brows, but damn it, Eve. Now we have work to do. So let's fix this, and let me show you how to map your brows first. Regardless of what kind of brow mistake you might be making, this is the first step always, is to just map out where your brow should be. So ignore what's there. Take a straight edge pencil, a brush handle, something that is nice and straight. Find your tear duct, and then go straight up from there and make a mark. That is where your brow should start. Then find the outside of your iris, go straight up from there. That is where the arch should be. Then line up your straight edge with your nostril and the outside corner of your eye, not your eye socket. Don't come down here, but your actual corner of the hole in your face that holds your eyeball in. That's what I'm talking about. That is where your brow should end. If it goes any further past that, you're getting a drooped effect. Okay, so once you have those markings, then you kind of have a guide for where things should go, and it gets a lot easier from there. So where we need to clean up this brow is pretty easy. Let me find. Okay, so we're gonna clean up this brow by first making sure that it starts above the tear duct, and it pretty much is. It's really hard for me to draw them on completely wrong. It's just an instinct that I have now to do it. So I started this one at the right place, but it's still too rounded. Your brow should start with a straight or slightly angled toward the middle of the forehead starting place. It should not be rounded. Okay, then it's way too high up here and way too sharp of an angle up here. Okay, so I would clean this up. If this was actual hair, I would take a feather razor and just start pushing down very gently until we clean that up. But because it's just makeup that I marked on my face with, I'm gonna show you what that looks like, and we're just gonna clean that up right there. So we wanna make sure that that's a straight edge right up here, and then brows are only going in two directions, okay? Then we want to fill in at the bottom here where there's too high of an arch right here. We want to fill in that bottom segment so that you have your brows in more of a triangle effect, kind of like this one. You can see this still quite a bit of an arch there. So we'll clean that up, and we're getting closer and closer to matching this brow over here. They're never gonna match exactly, and you shouldn't get too hung up on that because everybody's got a donkey and a unicorn. All right, so now we're much closer to a perfect brow. A little bit of brow gel if this was real hair, but this is mostly just a marking on my face. And now we're gonna do number 2. The second brow problem I see over and over again is that your brows are going in 3 directions. They're going up, then they're going over, and then they're coming down. So you have this tail where basically your brow is starting this way instead of starting this way. Okay, so we're gonna clean that up. We're gonna correct where the arch should be. Right now, it's way too far out here. This is also, I mean, that could be a whole nother category of problems, is not having your arch in the right place, because we think that the way that they grow is the only way that they can be. But I promise you, I haven't met a pair of brows yet that I couldn't correct. So It's possible. You just have to get out of what you think is normal for you and try to see something completely different. You can email me a picture of your face. It's vulnerable, I know, but I'm like a doctor. I've seen it all. You can send me a picture of your face and I can draw on there if that helps you understand where you need to clean up, because sometimes it's just really hard to see your face in a different perspective. But if this is your problem, then your brows are your starting place is horizontal and it needs to be vertical. Okay, so let's clean that up. Again, I would do this with a feather razor by knocking this little pitch right here down. But we need to first, let's map this, right? We're gonna look at the outside of the iris and we wanna change the arch to be right where this, or right below that. That's a little high, but just so that you can see, that is the location where the arch should be. Right now it's out here, it's the tiniest little bit, the tiniest little thing, like taking your hairs from going horizontally to a vertical with a brow glue. Like that makes such an enormous difference, and so can moving your arch just a tiny little bit. So can moving your starting place to the correct position. So let's clean this up with the brush, which is the only tool I have because that's how I did it. So we're gonna knock off this part right here, and we're gonna knock off this part right here. And again, in real life, you'd be doing that by pushing down, and then you'd be cleaning up right here, okay? Now let's go in with the pencil and make sure that we have a correct starting place, because already they do not start in the right place. So they are just shy of where they should start. This is where they should start, and that's maybe 1/8 of an inch, but it makes an enormous difference. So we're gonna fill in, and then I always like to give a little bit of a tilt toward the middle of the brow, toward the middle of the eyes, or the middle of the forehead. A few little hairs kind of going in that direction looks really natural. So we've cleaned up the top. We want them only going in 2 directions, from A to B and B to C. All right, make sure that it ends in the right place. And let's get that arch in the right place by just faking it, okay? So we're gonna just take a little bit of color up there. We'll get rid of the actual dot now that we know where it is. It's easier to do with a concealer brush that's loaded with a little bit of concealer. It just kind of knocks things down for you. All right, so that's where our arch should be. So we want to make sure that we're going down from that point and that everything else is reaching toward that arch in only one direction. All right, and that's it. Like, that's the cleanup. It's so minuscule. The few hairs that you have to knock out or fake makes such an enormous difference. But now the brow is going in only 2 directions. It has a proper starting place. You want to make sure your starting place is also very soft. It should not be a harsh line. If it is, it's creating competition for the iris to the whites of the eyes, because you've got this sharp mark here, and that's a straight line, and your face is a series of curves. So when you have straight lines on your face, it's very distracting for another person because we can only see contrast, okay? So softening that start, and that usually just looks like taking your spoolie and just kind of pushing, or even a little brush, and just kind of pushing them out a little bit. All right, let's go to brow problem number 3. Brow problem number 3 is a rainbow effect, okay? You've got your arch is way too close to, or centered with the pupil right here. It should be out here. And then you've got this curving down. Instead of kind of going outward, like this over here is supporting femininity in the face this way, where over here we just have this harsh droop right here that's just encircling the eye and not giving your eyes any ability to look a little bit more elongated and sexy. We clean that up in the same way we did everything else, by knocking off that tail, and that would be with a razor right here. You would just be cleaning that up after marking where your brow should end so that it's not coming down too low. We're going to change the arch to the outside of the iris and put it here. Brow game on.